Millennials take a lot of crap, and some of it they've earned. But every generation has things it needs to own up to, and one of those things is the part they play in shaping the environment the next generation has to live in. And being slapped with a label isn't fair anyway. After all, labels are used by old people as a blanket reason for what's wrong with things nowadays. You know those people. When it comes to consumer behavior, though, it's important to separate the fact from the fiction. According to a recent Clio Legal Trends report, everyone, and this includes millennials, wants to discuss the specifics of their case in person with a lawyer. And this talk about kiosk law or a good deposition happening in virtual reality or on a Segway may be missing the mark. Are they possible? Yeah, but just because you can create these things doesn't mean legal consumers actually want or need them. In this reality, we still want the service, we just get there in different ways. I can use my phone to get a ride, order a pizza, deposit a check, but it's not removing the base element of the transaction, the product, is it? I got the ride, I just used my phone to handle the transaction. I'm still gonna have a hot pizza, but I ordered it on Twitter. The check goes into my bank, but all I did was snap a picture and use their app. So for lawyers, it seems that people want to find someone who can handle a legal transaction in a smooth, seamless way. When it comes time to share the gory details of a legal issue, everyone wants service, authentically, in person, face to face. And that's what we're talking about today on Lawsome, the Millennial Legal Consumer. What's up with millennials? What's changed in legal services? What hasn't? And why authenticity matters more than ever. Let's go.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that can assemble IKEA furniture without even a quick glance at the instructions. I am Jake Sanders, and with me today, as always, is Paul Julius. Paul, why does this bookcase look like a desk?
It's an interpretation of what these various parts and Allen wrenches and umlauts have led me to. It's more art.
It's more impressionistic.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And I'm impressed that we found our way through it.
You can put books on it.
Near it.
I mean,
you actually have to have a couple of them underneath one of the legs to keep it up.
It has. Yeah.
That's a case for a book. Is it a bookcase?
Exactly.
Let's follow the instructions to the show and tell people what's next.
On the show today, we talk about millennials, consumer behaviors, and how to get those damn kids off our lawns.
Get off the... Sorry. I'm sorry, I was yelling at him.
Follow through. With an article from lawpracticetoday.com. And then we talk to Nika Kabiri from Lux Insights about the research she's done and how to reach the new digital generation of legal consumers.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The link today is from lawpracticetoday.org. It's by Jean Clausen. It's what millennials expect of attorneys. Paul, you found this. Jean is amazing on Twitter. Shout out to her. What was this excellent article? There's an enumerated list, I heard.
Here we go. You know it. That's why I picked it. So there's really 4 key points here. Number 1, millennials prefer to work with attorneys face-to-face. Number 2, millennials expect you to be available through a wide variety of communications. Number 3, millennials want to know what they're getting for their money. Number 4, millennials may need help identifying a need for your services beyond serious legal issues. The one I dig the most out of this, millennials prefer to work with attorneys face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of those perception versus reality things. And in the interview with Nika, we talk about this in the Clio report that came out. Overwhelmingly, people prefer to discuss their case or sign documents in person, whether not just millennials.
it just hasn't changed.
Mhm.
I'm really surprised at that.
Mhm.
That even in this age of DocuSign and
Mhm.
Skype and whatever it is, where you don't actually even physically need to be there, people still want to be there.
Mm.
That's kind of, well, it's kind of endearing, actually.
Right. As a former marketing director for a law firm, I will dispute number 2. It says millennials expect you to be available through a wide variety of communication channels. I found that people tend to just stick with one. It's usually email, and also you have to help them understand where you want to be communicated at or through or with. So a lot of this is sort of a marketing fail, or a marketing opportunity for you to set up how you talk. Talking back to Chris Smith on Your Firm app, it all happens on the app. Rather than saying I have to be available on the phone, on email, on instant messenger, on Facebook, on Twitter, on all those things, they need to be coalesced in some kind of like dashboard. That's tough. I mean, I'll push back a little bit on that. But there again, they're saying that people are overwhelmingly preferring older forms, phone, email, face-to-face. Everything else is sort of kind of dwindling down. But everybody wants to know what they're getting for their money, transparency, where's the value at? A marketing opportunity here again for law firms to explain clearly and cogently service fees. How do you get paid for what you do? When does it happen? Help people understand what the timeline looks like. I think that's good for everyone. I don't know anyone who's like, nope, I want you to put a hood on me and drive me to a location and then do legal stuff to me.
Yeah.
And then the last one, millennials may need help identifying a need for your services. What was this part, Paul? I didn't understand this one.
I'm going to throw another enumerated list.
Mm-hmm.
But in the article, it says the top 8 issues that millennials tend to see most likely to require an attorney are: number 1, felony charge; 2, divorce; 3, child support, custody or visitation issues; number 4, juvenile legal matter; number 5, disputed will; 6 is a prenup; 7 is immigration or naturalization; and 8 is a criminal misdemeanor charge. So, I don't see anything in there about starting a business. I don't see anything in there about writing a will, writing a lease, any kind of landlord-tenant stuff.
The point is that millennials are a distinct type of group. And in the interview, Nika kind of explains that it's the historical significance of the times of which people are going through their formative years that tend to mold the way they behave. And then technology writ large is changing. So I think, she makes a good point that, when you're advertising today, you're competing with the top advertisers. When you're marketing an experience at your law firm, you're marketing against the top marketing experiences that people could have. So you have to be considerate of that. And I think millennials maybe are even more considerate of that.
Fair point. But I think one other thing that Nika says, and this kind of is mentioned a little bit in the article and also the Clio study, is that they've grown up in an environment where a wealth of information is always available to them. So they're much more likely to go at it alone. Like, I don't why do I need to talk to a lawyer about writing this will? Here's a template right here. Here's a bunch of articles that were written by lawyers. I'm good.
Oh yeah, they think they're Julia Roberts in the Pelican Brief. Inside of a microfiche machine, like doing research, deep dives into Wikipedia.
I think that's where part of maybe some of this educational, maybe I don't know if you call it education marketing or whatever. And they even mention this in the article, as it says that note that creating wills and trusts didn't make the list. Attorneys who practice this area of law and other areas that didn't make the list might want to consider offering educational materials, partnering with local organizations to show them the benefits of using an attorney. Boom. So part of it is you want to say, look, yeah, you could use this boilerplate, lease agreement for, the apartment you're renting out or whatever. But what if this comes up? Or what if this comes up? You're talking, you could talk to a lawyer now and spend a little bit of money, or be mired in, legal issues for years
Mm-hmm.
if something goes wrong. And that's, I think, a lot of what we're talking about is protection,
Mm-hmm.
reassurance, understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of where, these benefits come in.
And
I think that's
let me count. No, so I think the benefits do come in, but I think there's one of information overwhelm and
Yes.
then focused educational content that drives people towards a business goal. So you
Well
need
said.
to start figuring out where your mind is in regards to marketing, because you can easily explain to people all of the wealth of, legal pitfalls that are coming, but where is the focus? What is your purpose? And where do you see yourself delivering your value? And the best way you can do that is by figuring out like an authentic angle that comes from a purpose that's aside from the legal services that you help transact. Because
Sure.
10 other lawyers can do this same thing. How do you bring your style to it? And then that's finally what kind of cohesively brings the whole piece together. Is millennials are looking for a lawyer who knows where they're coming from, that differentiates themselves. So this is all marketing opportunities here for me. I just see this as a marketing issue solely.
Oh man,
Referral advertising opportunities here. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too that each one of these things, even in this article, it's kind of broken out as more of a service.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of hiring a law firm or working, that's my lawyer. Like they don't have a lawyer. Like I talked to a guy to handle this prenup, or I talked to a different guy for this divorce, or whatever, however that goes, right?
Right.
But I think there's definitely, I really like what you're saying. I think there is an approach here. Like, I mean, just off the top of my head, if you were going to say, hey, if I were going to do some marketing, maybe for someone who did wills, or wills and trusts or something like that. And I know there's, like LegalZoom, Rocket Law are big competitors there because you can, just kind of answer some questions.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to go through and look up some when it went wrong things, and say, look,
Mm-hmm.
this didn't have to happen. I can help you from having this not happen.
And sit down face to face.
I mean, that's what a lot of these agreements, that's kind of what a will is about, right? Like, let's make sure stuff doesn't go sideways. It's going to be a tough time anyway, let's not add to it.
And it's the difference in between service and transaction, like you speak
Yes.
about in the intro, which I think is great. So that's at the heart of this. And so whether it's the boomers or the millennials, I think there's distinct lessons to take away. But Nika explains more about the differences and unique opportunities in the ways lawyers can communicate with millennials. Those darn millennials.
Avocado toast eating.
Get off my lawn.
All right, let's go check it out.
Let's go.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
We really have a relationship with ConsultWebs that goes beyond simple business-to-business marketing. We have grown up with them as a company. They were there for us when we started. We were there for them when they started.
So I think that we were ConsultWeb's first personal injury client 15 or 16 years ago.
I've been working with them directly for 10 years now, and they've always been a fantastic partner.
It's vitally important to us that when somebody says you should hire Bellick & Fox, and they go to the Bellick & Fox website, they're going to go beyond the website and contact us.
They understand storytelling, they understand technology, they understand a website isn't just text on a page, it's how you create an expectation for what that means to work with us.
When we get a case, they are very excited in a really genuine way that I think reflects the fact that they sort of view their success tied to ours. So that's why we've continued to use them.
I've never had anything but praise for how they've been able to market our website.
Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, for a lawsome interview.
Nika Kabiri is vice president at Lux Insights, a market research agency that helps companies grow and shape their brands. Nika received her PhD and master's in sociology at the University of Washington, and also has a JD from the University of Texas School of Law. With a decade of experience leading research projects for clients in the legal, retail, tech, and nonprofit sectors, including a stop as director of strategic insights at Avo, Nika brings a unique combination of market research expertise and rigorous academic training to her work. Nika, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump into it. Kick us off with a definition of what a millennial is and what it isn't. Is it just the young digital natives, or is it a behavioral thing around technology? What are the environmental factors we need to understand around this often misused phrase millennial?
Okay, so technically speaking, millennials are people that in 2015 were aged between 18 and 34. So I say 2015 because that's around when, everybody started to really get into millennials in a hardcore way. So really, technically, it's just an age classification. But there's something more to it than that. There's a reason why we have millennials, Gen Xers, boomers, etc., because there is something unique about the history in which each of these cohorts grew up. Second World War. You have all of the experience coming after that. Gen Xers, we had very unique experiences growing up, and millennials, they grew up in an environment where the Iraq War was kind of a big deal when they were younger. Occupy Wall Street happened during their coming of age. The huge recession that we saw hitting us in the late, in 2008, 2009. And then, of course, technology being a big part of everyone's lives. I mean, this is the world they grew up in. This is how they were introduced to the world. So they're going to see the world in a different way than other people. And that's why millennials matter. That's why we want to think about them differently.
How are millennials changing the nature of legal consumer behavior? And is there anything that isn't changing?
Right. So something that really doesn't seem to be changing, I'll just start with that, is the relevance of lawyers. So even though millennials are much more, the literature out there is saying they're probably a little bit more DIY, they're probably a little less likely to spend money. And yeah, they don't, there are a lot of them in debt. They don't want to spend money that much, but they do value legal help. They do want an attorney when they have a legal issue, and they do end up hiring them. So, and not only that, they have positive perceptions of lawyers. So it's not so much that, the new millennial, legal consumer is wanting to go to technology only to look for solutions. But they are going, obviously, to tech to engage with lawyers. So they kind of want to text more with their lawyer. They want online portals to do payments. They kind of want that sort of thing. Now, I really recommend everyone read the latest Clio Legal Trends report, because there's some stuff in millennials on there where even in some instances, millennials do still want that face-to-face interaction. So that will not change. But they are kind of looking for, they're looking on their smartphones just to hunt for lawyers and all of that. Whereas, boomers and Gen Xers might be looking for referrals.
So it's funny. Sorry.
No, go ahead, brother.
I just wanted to ask about that Clio. The one thing that really jumped out to me, everybody thinks millennials are this is a digital generation. Everything's happening through, Snapchat or whatever. But I was really surprised at how many people, including millennials, still prefer face-to-face interaction with lawyers when it comes time to discuss their case. And so what do you think? I mean, is it because it's personal? Is it more, obviously maybe in a family law situation, it might be one thing as opposed to setting up a business, but there's almost kind of like a doctor-patient thing or something going on there, isn't there? Or is there more to it?
I think it's more like an advisor relationship. And they're, like anyone who is seeking legal help, they have a ton of questions. And it's a lot easier to sit in front of an attorney or sit with someone like an advisor and have the back and forth and to have your questions answered. And then, when you think of more questions to go back and forth. There's also a lot to be said about body language and being in a room with someone who feels like, that makes you feel like you're going to be okay. who's confident about handling your legal issue for you. And I think a lot of people, millennials, are not, I think, any different than most people. They like that human interaction to feel like, okay, I don't need to stress out too much, or, I need to gauge from their body language just how bad this is. There's a lot of going on, and it's complicated, and it's not like a quick question that you want answered. You want to have a conversation.
So here's my question: is the difference in between segmentation and so the idea of demographics versus psychographics? And I think that technology sort of smears the line. And the reason why I put that in there is because I do know old people who are behaving like teenagers on their phone because they're just sucked into it. And we're all sucked into technology. So in some way, I think technology has sort of bridged the gaps in some way. And have you seen anything in regards to psychographics and demographics? Do you think about the distinction between those things? And what's your thoughts as far as the consumer insights are concerned?
Yeah, I think that so demographics, just to sort of clarify, it's really looking at or kind of dividing the market or the universe or the people that you're interested in terms of things like age, gender, where they live, their income level. So just basic, demographic information about them. And psychographics, that really involves getting inside people's heads. So, and also into their behavior. So for instance, engagement with technology, or what kind of music they like, or whether they are control freaks or not, or whether they have a tendency to take charge of their lives or let somebody else take charge, or all these things that you might profile yourself by as a person, and it's in your head. Yeah. And so there are overlaps because, like I said, millennials grew up in an environment where, for instance, the recession happened, and so they're a little bit more frugal, and so their attitudes and behavior around money is different.
Interesting.
Than older generations. But there's also, as you mentioned, there's a lot of overlap. There are older generations who behave like millennials because they're sucked into certain millennial behavior. They might have the same attitudes about technology. I think that really, when it comes to tech, anyone 45 and under probably behaves similarly these days because it's become so pervasive. Mm-hmm. So, but I think the important thing to remember is that, psychographics, it's like a combination of things. It's not just one thing. It's not just engagement with tech. It's everything from your attitudes, your values, the food you eat, the way you exercise or don't exercise, your politics, your beliefs, all of that.
So really, really fast on the side, what do you think the future is of consumer insights? Is it asking people how they think and feel, or is it monitoring people through surveillance?
Oh gosh, and so this is kind of like a conversation that I have quite a bit with lots of people in this industry. We have so much information at our fingertips now because we have data. We have Google Analytics data. We have all sorts of big data available to us, and we can just look at what people are actually doing online and just try to understand them that way. But honestly, there's something to be said about asking what people think and asking what they feel and trying to get at the why. So, and oftentimes what people think and feel are not what they do. Mm-hmm. And I've heard, a lot of analysts say, well, then we have to ignore what they think and feel, and we just have to focus on what they do. But my response to that is, well, why do they think they're doing one thing when they're really doing something else? I mean, if the answer to that could lead you to an insight, then maybe that's really something you want to explore. So my bottom line, my answer to that is there's a time and place for looking at internal data or behavioral data, and also asking people in a survey. There's a time and place for that as well. There's a reason why companies, big companies with lots of data at their fingertips, still do, qualitative focus group research kind of data.
Phone polls. Yeah. It's a great point. Yeah. So moving on, millennials, as we know them, they're killing napkins. They're killing straws. They're killing everything that we love. As far as fast food's concerned. Are millennials going to pull are they going to put the final nail in the coffin for lawyers who advertise on TVs, TV lawyer going the way of the dodo? And then Do you have any thoughts on what successful advertising aimed towards millennials would look like from a lawyer or a law firm?
That's a great
Isn't
question.
that? That's Paul's
It's
question.
an excellent. I love this question. And it's interesting because it's not just true of the legal profession. It's like anyone who wants to advertise these days, they're competing. If they're advertising on TV, they're competing with the fact that people browse the internet while they're watching television. Like they're online, they're on Facebook, their attention is divided. So more and more TV advertising is becoming less and less sticky, and online advertising is becoming more and more, it's resonating more. But with that said, millennials are a lot more likely to want to go to information and learn things in an organic way than they are likely to respond to like traditional advertising, which is why, for instance, native content is really, really valuable. So my recommendation to a lawyer would be, if you don't really want to spend all that money on TV advertising, and if you really do want to target millennials, think about, creating content, writing an article, and then, having it be sponsored somewhere, pay to have it show up somewhere, and have, somewhere where people will read it, and have millennials come to you because you have information you want to share, as opposed to saying, hey, look how great I am. Do you need a lawyer? Come hire me.
That's awesome.
So I have a real quick follow up. We keep saying that we're gonna.
It's all real quick follow up.
I know it's real quick. Do you think there's a backlash or an adverse effect, particularly with a younger generation of someone who's advertising on TV, or even if we look at cord cutters and that group, people who are advertising on YouTube or Hulu or something like that. Like, is it just like, hey, you're invasive? Do you kind of feel that maybe having something like content would be a better approach, as opposed to here's this guy, with his arms folded in front of a bookcase?
Yeah, I think millennials can see through the BS pretty well. I think they're they're so informed. They have so much more information available to them than any other generation. So they've they grew up in this environment where, Occupy Wall Street was happening, and critical challenge of the establishment was just something that was going on. And so they're not really, it's not easy to pull the wool over their eyes. They kind of want things to seem natural and real. They don't want to be pitched to in an inauthentic way. Authenticity is really where it's at. So, and they can kind of see right through that. And thanks to that, I think older generations are kind of being a little bit more aware of the BS too.
So then, to follow up on that, what do firms need to do to adapt? Is it build an app, advertise on Twitter, embrace their robot overlords, or grow beards? Or is it less of getting a thing, or more of understanding a behavior, or a little bit of both? Like aside from just like you gave a great example with native advertising, but there's this whole kind of feeling that a lot of the norms of how to approach people like this are just being rejected. Like you just said, there's too many ways to quickly research something and be like, yep, you're lying.
Right.
Right.
I really think the first place to start is to be really authentic about who you are as a lawyer and what you want to offer. And not just in terms of, I offer legal services in the form of writing a will, or I offer criminal defense services, but just, what do you want to offer as a lawyer? Do you want to be, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the hero who saves the day? Do you want to be the bulldog? And I hate using the word brand in circumstances like this, because it's really weird to brand. To me, it's weird to brand a person, but you kind of understand who is your authentic self? What is your authentic offering? And then whatever you do, you need to convey that authenticity, because that's what will really resonate with millennials. So if you do have a Facebook ad, have it be something that does show who you are or what your firm really is in an authentic way, and in a way that makes you stand out from other people. I'm not that much of an expert on should you do Facebook, should you do Twitter. I think a lot of that is just personally, you look for your audiences where they're at, and some of that is where I do research to help clients understand that. So, but without that research, just whatever it is you do, test it, learn it. Look, if you're going to do advertising online, look at the data that comes back and see how effective it is. But have the content be really real and true to your quote unquote brand.
I have a question. Millennial lawyer coming about who knows how to brand themselves on social media, has been shooting Vines their whole life, taking pictures, perfect selfies. These people know how to curate and perceive reality and help people see themselves. They are the cinematographers and directors of their own Hollywood hits. Do you think they stand a better chance to kind of cut through, or is it all going to be Instagram duck selfies in the future for lawyer advertising?
Oh God, no, please no. I think they are more savvy. I don't think that means that they are they necessarily have to have a huge advantage. It comes more naturally to them to engage with clients on social media, but it's not hard for older lawyers to learn. And not only that, but millennials and older people do want lawyers with experience. So there's something to be said for that Gen X or Boomer lawyer who's been around, who knows the system, who can tell you, the difference between appearing before Judge A versus Judge B, who's had enough cases like this to know exactly what to do. And everyone wants that lawyer who has that experience. I think, as long as an older attorney has the energy and the drive and demonstrates that and wants to do a good job and really, really shows authentically that they want to help their client, I don't think it necessarily means that the younger attorneys have a leg up. But yeah, they are really much more comfortable using social media to get known. Yeah.
We see it, Jake and I see it a lot in the advertising and kind of social media side, where people are not being authentic. It's just another place to smash what they think is, what you were kind of calling brand. But I think people make a mistake with that sometimes, where every single post is like, in an accident, call me. Have you been in a car accident? You may be entitled. It's like, no, you're trying to talk to people who have basically cataloged their life on Snapchat. You can't just be like, in an accident, call me. That's creepy.
100%. And not only that, but how do you differentiate between 10 lawyers that are saying the same thing to you? Like, we've all seen that TV advertisement that we think is really great, but we can't for the life of us remember what brand it was for. Like, if you want to advertise anywhere, TV, social media, it doesn't really matter. You want your message to be clearly linked and identified to you, so that when people do get in an accident, they call you and not, your competitor who has the same message.
So, Nika, how can people learn more about your work and what you're doing? And if they want to understand how millennials can work for their law firms, are you open? Are you open?
Oh, yeah, I'm open. I don't know if I should.
No, it's all good. Drop the line.
I do market research. I do it for legal tech companies and have advised lawyers. And you can find me at luxinsights.com. It's luxinsights.com. That's the market research company that I work at. And my email address is Nika, Nika, at luxinsights.com. So if you need any market research to help build your business or grow your brand, just reach out.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsonpodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawson.